Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee. Before I proceed with the meeting, I will seek a motion to adjourn this meeting, and we will be back after the adjournment pending the finishing of the Services Delegated Committee. Councillors, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Happy to move such a motion, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson. Thank you.
Yep. Just notice there's one councillor missing.
Oh.
The majority are here. We can move an adjournment.
Can I put it to the vote, please? Thank you. It's the motion is approved. We have been adjourning the meeting now. Thank you. And welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee.
We need a motion to reopen.
Before we commence the meeting, we need a motion to reopen. Councillor Park, thank you. And Councillor Sinfield.
Happy to second.
Thank you for that. I'll put the motion to councillors. The motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, everyone. And again, good evening and welcome. But before we commence the meeting, I request that all mobile phones are turned off or switched to silent. Thank you. My name is Councillor Stavru, and I chair this committee. The Urban Planning Delegated Committee meeting has been live streamed on the council website to enable public viewing of the proceedings, including councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting has also been recorded and will be made available on the council website as soon as practicable. Should technical problems be encountered during the meeting will be adjourned until the problem is rectified, or if needed, the meeting will be postponed. I will start by introducing my fellow councillors who are seated at the horseshoe table in the council chamber. Immediately to my left, Councillor Jim Park, Councillor Sydney Watson, our Mayor, Councillor Felicity Sinfield, Councillor Wes Gold, Councillor Di Gillies. On the other side of the horseshoe table, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lisa Hollingsworth, followed by Councillor Gary Thompson, and Councillor Jane Adders, and Councillor Susan Bigger. Thank you very much. Thanks. I also acknowledge our CEO, Mr. Phil Storer, seated behind Councillor Thompson, and our Director of Urban Living, Mr. Scott Walker, our Director of Places and Spaces, Mr. Daniel Freer, and our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr. Brian Wee. There are other officers in attendance tonight, and they'll be introduced as they present their reports. The primary purpose of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee is to deal with issues under the Planning and Environment Act and the Building Act. This committee has delegated authority to make decisions on behalf of Council. Councillors are familiar with each report, which includes a summary of objections received. For those in the gallery presenting this evening, when we come to the agenda item, it will be introduced by an officer, and I will then call you one by one to come forward and address the committee. If you're making a submission, please present your viewpoints clearly and concisely on why you support or oppose the planning application. Please do not repeat what earlier speakers have said, and keep the submission focused on relevant issues and points not previously raised. If you are opposed to the planning application, please tell the committee why you disagree and suggest an alternative approach that would satisfy your concerns. Please focus on your concerns rather than matters of history or detail in the officer's report. There is a strict limit of 3 minutes for each speaker, including councillors, and whilst as chair I can vary the time, I will seldom do. I will ask the speakers to sit at the top of the horseshoe table and will invite those against the report to speak first, followed by those in favour. At the 2.5-minute mark, I will make this sound, indicating that you have 30 seconds remaining to conclude your presentation. We move to apologies. Mr. Wee, are there any apologies this evening?
Through you, Chair, Councillor Franco is an apology this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Wee. The item 1 in the agenda is the adoption and confirmation of the minutes. Councillors, can I please have a motion to adopt and confirm the minutes of the Urban Planning Delegated Committee meeting held on the 6th of March 2023? We have Councillor Hollingsworth and seconded by Councillor Bigger. Thank you, councillors. Anybody opposed, councillors? There be no opposition. I declare the motion carried. Item number 2 on the agenda, councillors and council officers. Are there any conflicts of interest that need to be declared? There are none. Moving to the main part of the agenda tonight, presentation of officer reports. We have one report tonight, item 3.1, Glenferrie Place Plan updated draft for consultation. We have Mr. David Cowan, Manager of Planning and Placemaking, presenting the report. Mr. Cowan, please proceed. apologies, and Mr. Hondrakis would be providing some support as well. Thank you, Mr. Hondrakis.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, and good evening all. The Glenferrie Precinct is one of Burundara's major activity centres. It is home to 600 businesses, and we estimate up to 40,000 visitors per day. Understanding its importance to our community and our economy, Council commenced the placemaking project in 2020 to enhance the attractiveness and economic performance of the centre. In preparing the place plan, Council engaged with thousands of residents, traders and stakeholders and received responses from over 2,000 on their priorities for the future. There was consistent feedback that the centre was run down and needed investment to improve its appeal. The draft place plan was prepared to present feasible projects that would uplift the attractiveness and performance of the centre. Community feedback showed 85% support for the place vision and over 80% support for the draft plan in late 2021. In early 2022, the federal government withdrew funding for the commuter parking project, and Council also received a range of feedback on parking matters from residents and traders. In preparing this update to the draft place plan, Council has taken on board that feedback and sought to balance priorities from both residents and traders while providing a feasible path to deliver much-needed improvements for the centre. So the three main updates to the draft place plan include updates to the streetscape design that reduce the number of car parks removed. We present three options for the provision of car parking on the Park Street site, and we also made updates relating to the Tuck Stand and Ferguson Stand projects currently underway. This update to the draft place plan is being prepared for consultation purposes only, and we encourage feedback from the community and traders to guide the final version of the plan. We understand there's particular interest in parking issues in the place plan, therefore a supplementary report has been prepared for the Park Street parking facility and related parking matters. This report provides extra information on parking changes proposed, why these are considered appropriate, and what options are proposed for the Park Street site. I'll now hand over to Jim Hondrakis to speak further.
Thank you, David. And through you, Mr. Chair. The Park Street car park is located on the east side of Glenferrie Road between Lydiard Street and Park Street. It contains 138 car parking spaces that are accessed off both Lydiard Street and Park Street. The redundant commuter car park project involved increasing the number of spaces in the car park from 138 spaces to 494, an increase of 356 spaces. The proposals for the Park Street car park do not contain any commuter car parking, and the total number of parking bays is substantially lower. It essentially involves the relocation of existing car parks. With respect to parking, the draft place plan envisages a loss of 80 spaces from Glenferrie Road. These include approximately 40 spaces for outdoor dining, landscaping and public realm opportunities as a first stage, and then as stage 2 in the longer term, an additional 40 spaces for accessible tram stops. The Park Street car park options are as follows. I briefly want to describe option 1. This option involves a new multi-level car park on the south side of the existing car park. It would feature 5 levels, 1 basement level, ground level, first floor, second floor and a rooftop level. Access to and from the Park Street car park would be via Park Street only. That is, there would be no access via Lydiard Street. In terms of car park numbers, all existing 138 spaces would be retained. Stage 1 includes an additional 40 spaces for outdoor dining and public realm improvements. Stage 2 includes a further 40 spaces as a longer-term initiative for accessible tram stops. And these 2 stages would increase the total amount of parking to 220 spaces. There is also a further stage to provide a further level of 40 spaces to partially offset the loss of car parking from the Serpils Lane car park, should Council decide to proceed with the sale of the Serpils Lane car park. In this case, the total amount of parking would increase to 260 spaces, namely 138 existing spaces, 40 for streetscape opportunities, 40 for accessible tram stops, and 40 to offset parking from a change in use of the Serpils Lane car park. In summary, for option 1, depending on stages and council's decision on the future use of the Surplus Lane car park, the total parking on site could vary from 180 to 220 to 260 spaces. This includes the existing 138 spaces. Again, access to the car park for all stages would be via Park Street only. Option 2 involves one additional level of parking over the entire site. Access would be retained via both Lydiard Street and Park Street. The existing 138 spaces would be retained. An additional 80 spaces are proposed to address the loss of 80 spaces from Glenferrie Road, namely the 40 spaces for outdoor dining and public realm opportunities and 40 spaces for accessible tram stops. The total number of spaces for this option would increase to 220. Option 3, this option involves no changes to the car park. The existing car park would be retained as is, and any parking removed from Glenferrie Road would not be replaced. Aside from the parking options, a traffic impact assessment report has been undertaken, reflecting the various options and the changes in access. This report will be made available as part of the community consultation phase. I would just like to provide a few more details on the Surplus Lane car park. As mentioned earlier, the Surplus Lane car park provides a total of 89 car parking spaces. Council commissioned a traffic and parking impact assessment in 2022. Key findings from the surveys and the assessment include the following. The Surplus Lane car park is well utilised with high occupancy, 90% plus during peak periods, which generally occurs across the entire weekday daytime period. This peak typically commences at 8 to 8:30 a.m. and extends to 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. In the order of 30% of motorists within the car park overstay the time-based restrictions. The assessment also found that an estimated 64% of motorists that parked in the car park were associated with Swinburne University and 36% with the Glenferrie Activity Centre. There are 1,641 publicly available off-street car parks in the Glenferrie precinct. This includes the Surplus Lane car park. Each car park in the precinct varies in use over a given day. For the precinct overall, peak use is in the order of 80%, typically between 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. In the event that a decision is made to not replace the car parking as part of the future use of the Surplus Lane car park, there is sufficient spare capacity in the Glenferrie precinct car parks to offset the loss of 89 spaces. Specifically at the peak, there would still be just over 200 spaces in the activity centre. At other times, there would be greater levels of spare capacity. Peak use for the precinct would increase from 80% to 85% with the reduction in spaces from 1641 to 1551. This assumes that a decision is made to not replace the 89 spaces. As stated earlier, the Park Street car park options, namely option 1, contemplates a possible 40 additional spaces to partially offset the loss of the 89 spaces. I would just like to reiterate that the draft Glenferrie Place plan has been prepared for community consultation purposes only, and we do encourage feedback from the community and traders to guide the final version of the plan. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Handrakis. We have now 2 people that have indicated to speak to us tonight. And once I've announced your name, could you please be seated at the top of the horseshoe table? And I remind the submitters that we have a strict limit of 3 minutes, and please commence your submission with your name and suburb in which you reside. I have Mrs. Montserrat Pesimenti and Mr. Tony Stolarek. Ms. Pesimenti. Thank you.
Good evening again. And at this point, I am going to introduce myself as the Secretary of the Glenferrie Road Traders Association. And I am happy that there is a plan for Glenferrie Road, because we do need it, because the place is a disaster as far as cleanliness, beauty, and absolutely let go. It's almost like, anyhow, I won't go into it because I put myself down. Now, in the report, what I have read, you keep mentioning the sale of Serples Lane and part of the car park. Now, I would like to remind the councillors that the land for the car parks was paid by the traders. You as council and councillors are in trust of that land. I don't think the word sale should be at all in this report. If you're not going to use that land as one of the options, just leave it blank like they did in the previous plan. I don't think it should be put to the public if they want it sold or not, without all the ins and outs of what the heck is going on. I really don't think, as it is, it should be put to the public. Something else that is in the report, if you go to page 45, and that really hurt me today, because I saw it, you have the beautiful color photo of the old toilet in Grace Street, the sign to the municipal offices, which we don't have anymore, and I had made a complaint to my councillor as a private citizen, because I have to come up here if I want anything. And I don't think it's correct that Kew and Hawthorne don't have even a drop-off office. And I just, as I said, if you're going to put pretty pictures that are not current, please don't do it, because you're offending you ratepayers. I then checked today what was in that same signpost, which is in the corner of Grace Street and the Old West Park, and we are still, it's a different signpost, not the one in this photo, but it still has the sign for the municipal offices. And I thought, oh my God, do I have to go up and down to check what is correct or not? As I said, I do want a plan. The other thing, this is more a vision than a plan, because it gives no costing and no time. And I have been around long enough not to get any action happening. And I would like time frames allocated to when things are going to be implemented and happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pesmenti. Councillors, are there any questions for Mrs. Pesmenti?
No.
There'll be no questions. Thank you, Ms. Pesmenti. You can return to your seat.
Thank you.
I call upon Mr. Stollerek.
Thank you, councillors. I would hope, given that there's only two of us speaking, that we're not going to have a ruthless 3-minute shortening of the time, given the generosity given to the previous session. Anyway, I'm actually in favour of this updated draft place plan. I think it's a great improvement over the previous
Mr. Stollerek,
one.
could you please start with your name and...
Sorry, my name is Tony Stollerek. I'm a resident of Hawthorne, have been for about 34 years. I lived in a big mansion on Shakespeare Grove, and now I live in a townhouse just off Glenferrie Road, and so I daily see the condition of Glenferrie Road, walking along it typically and driving on it, having also lived in Kew for about 15 years prior to that. So the Glenferrie Place Plan is a great improvement. It does seem to me, though, that it is very much visionary, and maybe what we need to do is have an alliance and an action plan that it will become at some stage. It's interesting, Ms. Pesmenti, referred to the toilet issue. The toilet issue, in passing, is one of the things that activated me, I think that's the term, because of the disaster that happens under the railway bridges on Glenferrie Road, which is very seedy and, in fact, dangerous at night. And it's interesting, Ms. Pesimenti mentioned the out-of-date picture at page 45. The toilet replacement is mentioned at page 9 and at page 49, but there's nothing in the action plan or the timelines later which seem to extend with glacial extension. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to bring to the attention of the Council, and it's very relevant to the Serpils Lane decision-making, which is doubtless in all the super confidential material that we're not permitted to see, but at page 129, the councillors will see a very nice, colourful graphic which illustrates some of the car parking opportunities, and it's notable to me that Serpils Lane is how central it is to the overall Glenferrie precinct, and I do notice that the parking plans that are proposed for the Hawthorn Town Hall, the Arts Precinct, which is a positive plan, that multi-storey car parking that could potentially come down the line is actually far removed from the rest of Glenferrie, and it does seem to me that Serpils multi-storey car parking could be much more attractive. Anyway, turning to Park Street, I'm generally supportive of the Park Street options. I do make the observations for councillors that Park Street option 1 seems to divide the existing Park Street north-south alignment, which is about 100 metres, I checked the measurements today, into two zones. The north side, which seems to have in the graphic at option 1 5 or 6 stories of residential. I was somewhat surprised that Lydiard Street could be considered for a 5 or 6 story project. I'm suggesting to council you're going to get some aggravation there. I do make the observation that if the Lydiard Street redevelopment, which is a clever idea, was only 30 metres deep, like my townhouse, that would actually provide more parking options there. I do note, just a small item, there's a graphic at page 111 where the lettering is mirror reversed. I suggest you should correct the image at
Mr.
page
Stolaric, your time has expired. Do you have much more, or I can let you finish?
I just have one more observation to make. Councillors will be interested, I think, in the parking review, and I think it's very good that you commissioned the traffics group to review the parking implications, particularly around Serpils Lane. I draw to the councillors' attention, if you'd be so kind, if you go to page 168, the second last paragraph, J, where they're talking about the glib conclusions about relocating the Serpils Lane car parking. And I'll just read into the transcript. Numerically, the Serpils Lane car park demands can be displaced within the surrounding car parking supply, albeit this would result in already congested car parking network becoming more congested. The suitability or otherwise of car parking provisions is a strategic matter for council. I just draw to the attention of the council that as you go on to consider Serpils Lane, which is not the function of today, and you consider the numbers which are claimed to be 40, but in our view are 89 shopper relevant car parks. I'm interested that the traffics group had the courage to say that shoveling 40 to 89 car parks.
Thank you, Mr. Stolaric. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, you can stay there if councillors have questions. Councillors, do you have any questions? There'll be no questions. Thank you. You can return to your seat in the gallery. Appreciate that. We will return now to matters arising for the officers. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, and thank you to the residents and traders for their input this evening. There's a few matters that I can respond to, and possibly Jim as well. In regard to the toilet relocation, a bit closer. In regard to the toilet relocation, the public toilet on Glenferrie Road is proposed to be relocated as part of the streetscape upgrades. Page 30 shows a tram stop upgrade going in the location and references the relocation of the toilet. There'd be a range of locational opportunities for that could be explored in future in consultation with relevant landowners and state government if necessary. There was reference to the Park Street parking options and support for those generally, and there's an indicative development shown on the northern part of the site that simply reflects its potential use under its current zoning as commercial 1, or a reasonable anticipation of what that could be used for if the site was sold and redeveloped. There was a few mentions of the plan and the timeframes and referencing it as a vision, and that's probably an appropriate phrase to use for the place plan. It is a visionary document. It's quite a high-level strategy document for an entire precinct. So it's somewhat necessary to have broad timeframes when you're looking at a 20-year visionary plan. So the implementation plan does set out broad timeframes for key projects. Any several things?
Through you, Mr Chair, just in relation to the wayfinding signs, Ms Pensamenti is correct. There are some errors in those and they reflect the former municipal offices. They were installed about 10 years ago. So we will be updating those in light of the comments that we've received tonight to replace that effectively with the Hawthorn Arts Centre. We'll also review all the information on the remaining wayfinding signs. With respect to the Serpils Lane car park, yes, the precinct is busy and every car park peaks at different times of the day. The Linda Crescent car park on the city side of Glenferrie Road, there is spare capacity in that car park during the day, but in the evenings, 5 o'clock to 7 p.m, it peaks again, and it is at capacity. So every car park peaks at different times. Look, the traffics group does acknowledge that the car parks are busy, but also acknowledges that there is spare capacity. And at the very worst time, there is in excess of 200 odd spaces that would be available to offset the possible loss of 89 car parking spaces. The option is there to have less of an impact in the event that council makes a decision to provide an additional level in the Park Street car park as mentioned for option 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cowan. Mr. Andrakis. Councillors, are there any questions for the officers? I have Councillor Gold, and followed by Councillor Sinfield. Thank you, Councillor Gold.
Thank you, Chair. I just start with foreshadowing a motion, but I do have a question also.
Noted.
With the car park option 1, I think it's noted in the report that it's the most feasible and lower cost option. Can you please give us an indication, maybe not of the actual sums, but the comparative quantum of the cost of building 1 compared to option 2?
As a general overview, we assumed costs per space for option 1 at around 55,000 per space above ground and around 75,000 per space below ground. And for option 2, we worked on the basis of a lower cost per space calculation, with about 45,000 per space for option 2. So the overall cost of both as purely construction was about the same, noting that option 2 provides more spaces, but option 1 is at a lower net cost because of the opportunity to generate revenue from the land.
So if I could just clarify that, you're saying a simple plate with columns over an open space area is about the same as building a multi-level car park with a basement, construction cost-wise?
The short answer is yes.
Can we have that checked, please? Because I can't do it in this meeting, but it just...
If we can't do it in the meeting, we'll leave it for outside.
Well, yes, if we could get an answer to that, that'd be just terrific. My next question is, in assuming in your feasibility that we can sell a portion of the site and realise the benefits of that and bring that in to offset the cost of the car park, you're assuming that this council will agree to the transfer of those funds from that sale directly into the car park project. Is that correct?
We haven't proposed those calculations within, I guess, the plan as such, but by implying that it's a lower net cost, yes, there would be assumption that some of that would offset some of the costs of construction.
So can then I, as a last question, asked whatever appropriate officer is that normal practice to, at this point in time, assign funds from the sale of land to a specific project? I thought it was much more difficult than that.
I think I'll probably just step back a little bit from that question, and we're not proposing that as a project. We're putting forward, I guess, 3 options or categories of options. One being you could explore that option of subdividing the site and selling it, part of it to offset the other one. The other category of option is you use the entire site for an additional level of parking, and then the third option is you don't alter. So obviously, if you're going forward with this project, there's a lot of details you'd need to sort out. At a later date. So we're trying to categorise options into, I guess, 3 simple scenarios that allow us to consider the merits of those different scenarios.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you, Chair. My question is somewhat related to this motion and the agenda item, but is distracted a little by parking, but that seems to be the topic of tonight's various meetings. So through you, Chair, to officers, I'd just like to clarify in relation to parking that we want to always maintain some capacity. We wouldn't want to be at full tilt in our parking allotments at all times. Is that a correct assumption?
Through you, Mr Chair, yes, that is correct. So typically we would be in the order of 85%. We still have a little bit of spare capacity. Once we start getting to 95%, it does make it very difficult at the peak.
Thank you. I'll leave it there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sinfield. Councillor Park.
Simple question. The last word of paragraph 3, would that not be consideration rather than adoption?
Through yourself, Chair. Yes, it could be corrected to say consideration or consider adoption. It would be actually probably the more correct term, consider adoption of the plan.
Thank you. You comfortable with that? Yes. There be no further questions. Councillors, is there anybody prepared to move a motion? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Gold.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that the officer recommendations are as the motion with minor changes. I think to paragraph 3, the change that Councillor has just been presented to it by Councillor Park. Also to paragraph or clause 2, I would like to add to the end of that to include facilitated meetings between residents and traders.
For consideration of adoption. Who's got and adoption? I think consideration of adoption.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that question?
Sorry,
Councillor
just
Gold?
adding to the end of the how it was previously, to include facilitated meetings between residents and traders. And the last paragraph, I think, and adoption can be removed. It was just for consideration. No, for consideration is correct?
No.
Yeah. No. Simply Glenferrie Place plan for consideration, full stop.
House to consider for adoption. Are you comfortable with that?
Otherwise, predetermined outcome.
Predetermined outcome for consideration. That's it. That's correct now.
Okay,
So that's the motion I'm proposing. Thank you.
that's fine. Thank you, Councillor Gold. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sinfield.
No, apologies, that's a
I think it was me, as far as I can tell.
Councillor Vigor.
Yes, I would love to second that motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Vigor. To assist the mover, is there anybody opposed to the motion? There being no opposition. As the mover, Councillor Gold, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Chair. I will just briefly. Thanks to the officers for all the detailed work put into this. I know it's been a lot of twos and fro's, but we finally have a document that I think is great to go out. Studies went back, I understand, as far as 1993 for this area, and it is delightful to see that something looks like it's getting closer to happening. There's many problems, and some of those have been discussed tonight: toilets, lightings, laneways. But moving to the bigger issues regarding residents and customers, we're looking at a revitalisation. Better pedestrian areas, greening, outdoor dining areas, an innovation spine which has the potential of creating some employment, better provision for cyclists, both for access and safety. From a trader's point of view, this proposal, when delivered, can help traders offset the effects of online stores, big box retail, larger centres. So I commend the recommendation. I commend the parking also proposals. It's all about parking tonight. The reduced uptake of Glenferrie Road car parking, which is a great change, and the proposal in the amended plan for staged provision of that parking. Because, of course, some of those spaces won't be needed if we don't have the tram stop changes. So, but I do note there is a cost differential. I'll be keen to see what that is between the options 1 and 2. And I do point out that probably delivers some reduction in parking convenience, but let's get it out there and get it tested with the public. Also, I believe the library proposal, the moving of that, will be somewhat controversial, but again, I support getting it out there and getting it tested. So I strongly support we get this out for public comment as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Vigor, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Yes, though given the late hour and the state of my voice, I will keep it extremely short and just say that I think this is it's a fundamental step for us in any project, obviously, but in particularly in something as important as the Glenferrie Place plan, that we hear from the community, and we do need to hear from the community. It's very, very important, because our aim is to provide an outcome that suits the needs of the whole community. So I would really do hope that we get good response, and that in several months' time we're sitting here with a very clear sense of what the community wants and needs in this important part of Boroondara. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vigor. Do you wish to add any more words there? Sorry, Councillor Sinfield?
Chair, I'd seek your indulgence to just speak very briefly to this, if I may. I acknowledge it's unopposed.
Be brief, please. Thank you.
I'd just like to clarify my position, and I struggle with the word endorse at point 1 here and was very tempted to oppose this, but I do really want it to go out for community consultation, but there's a lot of things that I'm not comfortable with in this plan. And they are 3 particular things: the loss of parking, the separation of bike lanes, particularly right down in the heart of Glenferrie, and the impacts to the non-hospitality retail businesses. So I'd just like my comments noted. I support it going out for community consultation, but there's a lot that I'm uncomfortable with in this plan. Thank
you, Councillor Sinfield. There'll be no further comments to be made. Do I have a... No, I will now put the motion to the vote. Oh, I apologise. Thank you, Councillor Vigor. Councillor Gold, would you like to have any final words?
Said all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Now I'll put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item is general business. Councillors, are there any matters of general business? There be none. We'll move to urgent business. Councillors, any urgent business? There be none. We now reach the final part of the meeting. But before I close the meeting, I want to thank you all who've joined us this evening and wish you all and your family good health. I declare the Urban Planning Delegated Committee meeting closed. Thank you very much.